you got to realize that whatever you're doing, you're competing with somebody. What is it that gives you an advantage over your competition? Whatever you're good at, try to be great at it. And if you're great at it, good things will happen.
Maverick. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. This is the Maverick Podcast. I'm your host, DJ Maverick. Today, we are rolling out the red carpet. Once again, we have Mr. Guatemala, Oklahoma, Brian De Leon. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure to be here today with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, pleasure's all mine. Before we dive into everything, for the 1% of the people out there that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, my name is Brian De Leon, Mr. Guatemala, Oklahoma, 2023-2024. And I'm a proud Guatemalan U.S. citizen over here rapping.
Very cool. So tell me a little bit about where you grew up. You know, what age did you come over to Oklahoma? What was that like?
Well, I grew up in a small town called Palestina de los Altos, Quetzaltenango, in Guatemala.
Okay.
Yeah. I came over here when at the young age of about 7.5. And I've been living here ever since, here in the OKC.
Got it. What was like the biggest like culture shock when you came from Guatemala to here? Like, what was the biggest shock, you think?
My biggest shock probably seeing no mountains, man.
Mountains?
It's over here all flat. All I
True.
see is plain. I'm like, wow, I'm sure gonna miss the greenery, the mountains.
Yeah. Is it like pretty like beautiful landscape, Guatemala, all kinds of landscape?
Oh,
or
yes.
Yeah.
It's mainly mountains, so, you know, lots of up and downs.
Got it. What about weather-wise? What's the weather like?
Oh, weather-wise, you can say it's more like springtime over there.
Got it.
It's called the land of eternal springs for a reason, because every day you wake up a bit chilly, and then during the day it gets warm.
Okay. So it's almost like perfect weather.
Oh,
like
always.
all year or what?
All year.
Yeah. Man, that sounds awesome.
Oh, yeah, it truly is.
Very cool. So tell me a little bit, you know, you in school, what type of kid were you? You know, were you outgoing? Were you into sports? Like, what kind of stuff were you into?
When I was a kid, when I was young, I was probably a bit more outgoing, but as I grew up, I became a bit more shy. Hung out with a couple friends, but it was nothing like big. I tried out for sports.
Yeah.
Wasn't my thing.
No?
I joined a few clubs here and there, but afterwards, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to focus on studying and see what comes out.
Got it. What did you want to do? Like, what was your dream job, you know, getting out of school? What did you want to do?
My dream job as a little kid was either astrology
Really?
or
Okay.
paleontology.
Wow. Why do those two? Those are almost like, you know, 180 career choices. Why those two?
I just love learning about space.
Yeah.
Was one of the main reasons. Love learning about planets, their origins.
Got
And
it.
then paleontology, I was always, as a little kid, everybody's excited about dinosaurs, where they come
True.
from. So
Yeah. But you didn't want to travel to space. You just wanted to learn about it, but not be an astronaut.
I thought about becoming an astronaut, but then I realized I had to join military for that. I was like, you know
You're
what?
like,
That's
I'm out.
not cut up for me.
Yeah. Very cool. So in high school, you know, you were into like anything outside of school or anything? How did you start getting your feet wet into leadership?
It all started out, I was part of NHS, National Honor Society.
Yeah.
That was like my first step in becoming a leader. And so we would have like these weekly meetings. Unfortunately, I couldn't go to all of them because school, different
Sure.
activities. But it was always over there, always about planning events, seeing what community hours you have to get. And afterwards, when I was in Friends of Tuttle, they chose me to join SLA.
What is that?
SLA is Superintendent Leadership Academy.
Okay.
And every Wednesday, we would go out to a different campus of Friends of Tuttle and pretty much go over basic needs of what you can do to become a good leader in the community, how to build up reputation, what you can do to help out,
Okay.
different ways, how to communicate to people.
What do you think sort of attracted you to being a leader? Because I think when you're a kid or you're in school, it's not always necessarily cool to be a leader. Like afterwards, when you're a grown up, you're like, okay, like leadership is cool, right?
Oh, well, becoming a leadership is it's easy, but it's a lot of things that people do not enjoy.
Yeah.
But I'm the oldest, so being a leader always
It was like
I
by
was always
default.
ended
Yeah.
by default. Yeah, man. I always had to, guide my little brother. Now got to
Yeah.
guide my baby sister. So it was always ended for me. And every time I see there's an opportunity, I would take it.
Yeah. Was there like a lot of pressure from your family since you were like the oldest to set a good example for your siblings or what?
I think being the oldest always comes with its own pressure, but my family was always over there very supporting,
Yeah.
always enjoyed it if I joined clubs or something. They will always back me up 100%.
Yeah. Cool. So I see you're repping Guatemala, right? So tell me, how did you get involved with that? And then what made you decide to run to be Mr. Guatemala, Oklahoma?
Well, I started doing folkloric dance groups
Okay.
for Guatemala around when I was about 17 or 16. I don't remember exact age, but I started in a dance group called Eterna Primavera
Okay.
by Hilda Xavier. We
Yeah.
had her
Shout out to
before.
Hilda.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that was her dance group, right?
Yeah, that was her dance group.
Okay.
I was with her for about 6 months. Then I left because I couldn't find the time.
Mhm.
But eventually I joined another folkloric dance group and stayed there with them for another 6 years. I stopped for about a year or two.
Yeah.
And then Hilda once again called me up and she was like, "Hey Brian, I could really use your help doing some performances." I was like, "You know what? I'm down, sure. When do we have practice?
Yeah.
So, so I can freshen up on the steps." And she was like, "Oh, we have practice this following week if you want to come." I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Nice. What drew you to dance? Were you always like into dancing and stuff like that? Or what drew you to that in the first place?
I always love dancing.
Yeah.
I love especially to dance like Mexican music.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like my first interaction. I always loved dancing. I was like, I'm gonna try a bit of folkloric dancing, see how that goes. Fell
Yeah.
in love with it.
But I think like dancing, like traditional, folkloric versus like just cumbias or something like that, way different, right? So which
Oh.
part did you enjoy? Did you enjoy all of dance?
I have pretty much enjoyed all of it. I just love over there, dancing, moving around.
Yeah.
That was like my form of exercise because back then I didn't go out a lot. So I was like, you know what? This could really help me out. It helped me relax. So
Would you say that being in Eterna Primavera kind of like molded your cultural sort of like representative or identity because you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I'm also repping my culture by doing this.
oh yeah, 100%. Like when I first joined Eterna Primavera, I pretty much didn't know nothing about my Guatemalan culture besides what my parents knew.
Got it.
And after I joined, I started learning a bit more. Started learning about a bit more from where the dances come from, what the trajes,
Yeah. And there's
cortes,
like
yes.
meanings behind the dances and then the different like clothing. There's like different meanings for everything, right?
Oh yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And so I started falling in love with it even more.
Very cool. So that kind of guided you to be into the running for Mr. Guatemala, or what steps got us there?
It started, I think 2 years ago when Hilda first asked me to become Mr. Guatemala Oklahoma. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do it.
Okay.
I thought myself I wasn't just ready. So I was like, you know what, Hilda, if we can hold on till next year, I will do it. But this year it's just not it for me. And
What made you say that? Were you just hesitant, or was it like time commitments, or what was it that you made
I
you
think I was
say?
a bit more hesitant.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't think I could do it.
Okay.
So
Got it. What was like your most memorable performance? Do you have like a performance dancing that you're like, man, that was like my favorite?
probably my most favorite performances up to date was Rhythm of the World,
Okay.
which happens every year.
Still to this day.
To this day, I think they're having another one this February 27th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go over there and watch the show for the first time because usually I'm the one participating.
Yeah. Now you get to relax and be in the audience,
Oh
right?
yes.
So what makes it so memorable? Is it just because the different rhythms, different cultures? Like, why is it so memorable?
It's memorable because you see different cultures around the world pretty much
Yeah.
come up and share a bit of the culture. And it's
Okay.
always good to see, different dances come to life.
Got it. And the Mr. Guatemala, Oklahoma, you ran for it just last year, or when was it?
I was nominated last year in
Okay.
September.
Got it.
Yes, that's when I was officially, I would say, crowned for Mr.
Yeah.
Guatemala, Oklahoma.
And I also know that you recently went to Guatemala. You delivered some school supplies. So tell me a little bit about that, because we were talking off camera about how rewarding that is, right? So tell me about that.
Oh, well, I went to Guatemala this January, and my goal was to donate. I think at the beginning was just to donate books,
Okay.
notebooks.
Got
And
it.
specifically, I wasn't really thinking, I'm going to donate pencils or
Yeah.
other stuff like that. But my mom came up to me and she was like, you should do something else. Like, you should go out there and see if you can donate a bit more. And so I was like, you know what? Let me think about it, see what we can come up with. And she was like, don't worry, like over there, your aunts are my aunts are teachers.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So they got the connections.
Oh, they got the
Yeah.
connections. And they were like, you know what, mijo, we would love it if you would not only just send us notebooks, but it would be great if you can send us, color pencils,
Yeah.
erasers, pens,
That's awesome.
pencils.
What about the logistics of like, sending that many supplies? What was that like? Is it difficult, or did you purchase while you were over there, or how did it go?
Well, I over here I'll raise the money and send it over there, so my aunts would take care of everything over there. They're the
Okay.
ones who told me, okay, we're gonna go to this store this day. We're gonna collect this many notebooks, this many pencils, and everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that's how it went. My aunts just came up to me and were like, okay, we already got this, this, and this. Oh, we also thought about buying some snacks for
Awesome.
the kids, that
Yeah.
when they used to get the school supplies on leave.
I can only imagine like the kids' faces when you were there, how they lit up and everything. What was that reception like when you arrived there?
At the beginning, all the kids were a bit nervous. They were like, what's going on? Like, who are these people coming up? Because we usually go by context by teachers and be like, just to round up kids. We told them that we were going to give out school supplies, but I didn't think that we were going to get them out
Yeah.
in a specific way. Because at first we were like, you were going to do some games with them, get them into a pretty much a fun mood so they can enjoy not
Got
only
it.
getting school gifts, but enjoy a bit of childhood before they went back home or to work.
Yeah. What age of kids are we talking about?
Most of the kids were about first grade.
First grade. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. How many kids?
We went and gave out a total about 775 children over there.
Wow, that's big. That's
Ah,
pretty cool.
Yeah, something small for over there.
Yeah.
There's way more kids, but unfortunately, we didn't have enough resources. So we were like, you know what? We might come
Yeah.
back next year, make it bigger, make it better, see
Definitely.
what we can do.
I mean, for being your first time and making that big of an impact, that's super. I mean, that's congratulations on that. That's
Oh,
very
thank
cool.
you.
What was like the feedback that you got from the kids and stuff? Once they were like probably got to know you a little bit, did they open up a little bit more or what?
Oh, some kids did. Other kids, just went out already opening their notebooks, started
Yeah.
writing on them. And other parents were like grateful to see their kids have like something to go to school with, something that they don't have to spend their money on. They can spend on something else for like shoes or clothes.
Yeah, that's awesome. We were also talking off camera about your volunteer hours. You had a crazy number of volunteer hours, right? You said it's like over 400 hours probably, right?
Yes, it's somewhere around that. It's probably gone a bit higher since that's been updated. But yeah, I've been volunteering. Most of those hours come from dancing,
Okay.
which is something that I love to do.
Yeah, that's
But
amazing.
yeah, besides that, I helped out on food banks.
Okay.
I helped out, moving,
Mhm.
done a bit of work every now and then.
How do you balance all the commitments, because being Mr. Guatemala, Oklahoma, I'm sure you have to go to events and be present, and then you have to volunteer, plus your normal job and everything else. How do you balance all the commitments?
I want to balance it out by having a fixed schedule. Usually, they would send me events in like a month before, so I would like communicate, be like, okay, I have to trade, these days from work with my friend, see if he's willing to switch,
Yeah.
and he will help me out like that. Or my boss would be like, okay, you can leave a bit early, so you can get ready and go in the afternoons.
That's cool. That's cool to have that support because being flexible like that goes a long way, right?
Oh, it truly does. It shows just how much commitment they want to do too, even if it's not by being there themselves, but by helping others be there.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me, if you had to sum up, like, what's the biggest challenge of promoting your culture and volunteering? Like, what are some of the challenges that you've faced so far?
I think some of the biggest challenges I face so far is just seeing people enjoy themselves or trying to be more involved in the community. Like,
Okay.
I think that's the biggest challenge. Like, we also are out here trying to promote things. We tell people, hey, come help us out, come join us.
Yeah.
And it's always a struggle to get like people to come or to come help out.
Right. Do you see sort of in the younger generations they're a little bit more hesitant to be involved with community events or what?
Yeah, it's always the younger generation, mainly because we've been raised to, just go to school, go to work, and get your 9 to 5,
Yeah.
go home and spend time with the family. But I'm over here with the cultural where we help out communities. Seen
Yeah.
it over there in Guatemala, where the other teachers, my previous teachers, were over there trying to help get kids in line, get them in order.
Hmm.
Or sometimes even here when we do food orders, we sell food sometimes to help out communities over there in Guatemala.
Yeah.
And we always see like my uncles, my aunts, other family members come up and be like, okay, we're gonna sell this type of food and we're gonna help out, distribute it, sell.
So it becomes sort of a family, sort of close knit relationship, and you get all your family involved just because they know, hey, Brian's doing it, we got to do it too, or what?
Oh, sometimes it works like that. Other
Yeah.
times my parents be like, hey, we're gonna be selling food this day. We want you over there, be one delivery drivers
Got
and
it.
help us out. So I'm like, you know what, I'm down for it. Let's go. Like, just let me know when and where,
Yeah.
I'm there to help.
What do you think, because I know all the younger generations now, they spend a lot of their time online, right? So if I'm thinking about the future and what that's going to look like to preserve culture and to get involvement from these younger generations, what's that going to look like in the future, you think?
Oh, in the future, it's gonna be a lot tougher just to even get kids out there, to even
Yeah.
perform culturally.
Yeah.
Over there in Guatemala, it's like a significant part. Over there, you see people doing bands, parades every now and then,
Mhm.
and we have like big cultural events. Over here, it's not so much present, but that's something we try to fix. So, something that we try to promote online, something to get them like, okay, we're going to show it to you online, but we want to be offline that day so you can come and see us, come
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah, because recently Apple released the Vision Pro. I don't know, have you seen the
Oh,
Vision
yes,
Pro?
I've seen it so far.
What do you think about that?
I think I should get one of these days.
Yeah?
Yeah, it seems like it'll be a nice little tool guide to have just in the bedroom, but
Yeah.
uh,
I just wonder if it's going to like cause us to disconnect even more, right? Because you already see people on the subways or the airports, they're wearing the Vision Pro and they're kind of in their own world, right? Like they're sort of living virtually, right? At that point. So I wonder if that's going to be a good or a bad. What do you think about that?
I think it will be a mixture of both. Sure, it's a bad thing because you won't be able to like connect to people right next to you,
Yeah,
but it will also help you connect with people who are further away.
true.
Yeah, so that will be like a huge pro on it. But
Yeah.
like you said before, it won't be as much of a con.
Yeah, I think it's just like adapting and maybe seeing how you can leverage those tools in the future, right? Like maybe you're able to reach people that you normally couldn't, right? Like that might be a good opportunity. But tell me about the difference between, Guatemala versus US schools, like technology wise, like what are the differences you think?
On Guatemala, you have a lot less technology, mainly because it's not as advanced yet.
Yeah.
But nowadays, over here, you got, kids with iPads, teachers be like, okay, take your iPad home. We got this much homework on this test. Take all tests electronically. Over there, you don't get that opportunity. Sure, every now and then, you got teachers that, especially for older kids, they have like, okay, we have homework, go do it on your laptops or
Yeah.
you can't, notebooks. But it would always usually be, okay, you got to write this down and do the homework at night.
Got it. So, if you're thinking about the pros and cons, you kind of experience both. Which one would you rather have?
I would much rather do the work manually or
Manual?
without electronics.
Really? I was expecting you to say the other one.
Oh no, I'll
No?
always I do use the technology a lot, but much
Yeah.
rather prefer, just to go out and, do it by hand. It feels a lot more comfortable, a lot more relaxing.
Yeah.
I feel like you won't get as easily distracted because if you have your iPad right there, or computer, you can easily, okay, I'm going to take a break for 5 minutes and go on YouTube, but then you forget about your homework and everything, and you're no longer, focused on that.
True.
You
True.
easily get distracted nowadays. So I would much rather have my notebook, my homework sheets, or whatever I'm doing right there in pen and paper and start
Like
writing it down.
focused.
Oh, yes, it's a
Yeah.
lot better.
That's cool. So tell me, being Mr. Guatemala, Oklahoma, what are your goals for doing that? Or do they sort of like set out an agenda of like, hey, you got to be involved in X number of community events, you got to, do community service? Like what's sort of the goals for being that?
Well, the one thing they told me was, hey, you had to set up certain events for yourself, trying to promote Guatemalan culture.
Yeah.
And so far, I've done a bit of that. Like one of my goals was, there's to go to Guatemala and donate school supplies. But at the same time, I'm working with some schools Saying they will let me go out and speak to the children, let me communicate with them,
Yeah.
talk to them about a bit of culture and what important it is to keep it alive.
Do you feel comfortable doing both English and Spanish, or do you feel like you're more comfortable with one versus the other?
I'm comfortable doing both. The problem is my language, which can actually be a bit more harder to understand if I'm speaking Spanish. And
Okay.
it's no longer my primary language. It's
Yeah.
been switched over to English by now.
Yeah, and I think, the more you grow older, the less you get to practice, right? So being at work and stuff like that, you don't get to practice as often probably, right?
Oh no, not anymore. Anyways, the only time I get to practice is when I'm with my parents, aunts, or uncles. They would much rather prefer I would speak in Spanish.
Yeah,
But if I talk to them in English, nowadays they would understand.
got it. We were talking also about your day job and, how you enjoy doing that. So I don't know if you want to dive into that, but it sounds like you're into like car repair, stuff like that, right? So how'd you get drawn into that industry?
I got drawn because my whole I don't say my whole family, but on my mom's side of my family, two of my uncles are mechanics.
Uh-huh.
They got their own shops already set up here in the U.S. And when I was little, not little, when I was probably about 15, I went over there, worked with them in the summer, enjoyed it, seeing all these different cars come up,
Yeah.
seeing what they would do to them. I would always ask questions like, hey, why are you moving that for? What cost is this, And that would always draw me in.
So you
And
grew up being around cars and just being around mechanics and everything?
in the summer, yes.
Yeah.
But another factor that came up with it was that I always loved building.
Okay.
So I would love to tear things apart, putting back on. And I've seen that happen a lot with cars. Sometimes she would like take apart the motor, rebuild it.
Yeah.
And so that drew me in as well.
Are you a car person? Because I feel like there's people that are really big into cars, and then there's people that are like, I just need something to get me from A to B. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what it is, right? So are you a car person or what?
I'm a car person, not by mods,
Yeah.
but by how they look.
Okay.
Yeah, I would much rather see a nice looking car than a car that's fast. That's always been my thing. I don't care if your car is a little four little banger
Yeah.
out there, but as long as it looks good, it's clean, I would always enjoy it.
Awesome. Are you into the JDM stuff, the German stuff? Like what kind of cars? Like let's say dream car, like what would it be?
Oh, dream car? It's probably gonna be a Bugatti Chiron. That's always been like my
Oh,
dream
man,
car.
you're going big.
I always go big,
Yeah.
but my more realistic car that I want to get is a Honda S2000.
Grew up kind of like with Fast and the Furious and stuff like that, or what?
I always loved it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movie series. When I was little, my cousin would always be like, "You're gonna be Brian because your name is Brian."
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was like, "I'm gonna be Toretto because
Nice.
I
That's
love
cool.
him." Yeah.
Yeah. So being, in the automotive industry, I'm sure it's being impacted a lot by technology too, right? Like nowadays, when you open up the hood of a car, like it's basically a computer, right? Everything's covered up. Like you can't see the carburetor. Like what is that like being, having to adjust to all that technology?
Oh, it's always a bit tricky, especially nowadays with hybrids or all electric cars.
Yeah.
It's no longer, gonna remove this bolt and not this piece to make it work. Nowadays, it's, you gotta follow a wire and see if you have to connect another harness or something to it.
And you
But
basically can hook up like a laptop for diagnosis and stuff like that, right?
a lot of times, yes,
Yeah.
especially nowadays with all cars and different types of sensors that they have.
Yeah, especially Teslas. I don't know if you've ever messed with Teslas, but they get pretty much like software updates and then that fixes bugs and stuff like that. Have you ever like worked on a Tesla?
I haven't been able to work on Tesla. I worked with fully electric vehicles like the Ford Lightning or the Mach-E Mustang.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the pretty much only full electric vehicles I worked on so far. But
Yeah. The new Ford electric truck is crazy. Like it's like it basically has like a trunk in the front where like
it's a
the
frunk.
engine, right? Like a frunk, yeah.
Yes, it's a front.
Yeah. So what can go wrong with an electric car? Because there's not very many moving parts. There's basically no liquids, right? Like you change the tires, but like what is a typical maintenance?
Typical maintenance, if you take care of it like anything else, it's pretty much just a tire rotation,
Yeah,
brake pads, which will never be electronically for safety.
true.
So
Yeah,
it'll pretty much just be brake pads and tires. Make sure those are always working perfectly.
yeah,
And besides this, like you said yourself, software updates, make sure all the motors electronic motors.
Yeah.
Always are up to shape. Make sure none of the gears are worn out or something to make sure you can steer well. Or sometimes they help you like pop up the hood or something. Make sure all those components are just as good as they want.
Yeah. What do you think about the self-driving, right? Because I see that's going to be probably the next step, right? Where it's like the car drives itself and you just kind of like are along for the ride, right?
Oh yeah, I'm not ready for those
No?
days. I feel like it's gonna be way more chaotic because people are gonna depend on them a bit too much, and
Yeah.
that's always a risk. Cause I'm not ready for it just
No.
yet.
Got it. So how do you adjust to changing technologies and everything? Do you go to training often, or what does that look like?
We have a special training that we do. It's called Ford program where we go out and take tests on the computer. The computer will tell us, okay, this car has these type of components and this is how you fix them, or this component does this at certain times. And so we do train like that. And Ford especially has programs that you would go out
Yeah.
and pretty much go to different locations, and they would have a simulation pretty much where you would work on it hands on,
Oh, okay.
and that's how you would practice on it before you
That's
would
awesome.
go out on.
And that's super
Yeah.
interesting to me. I could talk cars to you all night long, but we'll change the subject.
Especially since it's ever changing.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me, what's your goal? You went to Guatemala, you delivered the school supplies, you were already talking about next visit. What other things do you have planned for this year?
Probably for the rest of this year, is probably just trying to get to schools, trying to talk to more children, especially talk about them, the importance of learning about your culture, learning about being in the community, because that's where most of the culture is going to be at, is inside your own community.
Definitely. So are you like also visiting schools here in Oklahoma, or is it more about reaching out to Guatemala and helping them?
No, I'm planning on visiting schools over here in Oklahoma. I'm working
Okay.
with some teachers, seeing which one of them would like to have me.
One of the questions I always ask my guests, if I pull up your playlist, who am I going to find on your playlist? So what kind of stuff do you listen to?
Oh, I listen to a bit of almost everything. I listen to a bit of country. The main stuff I listen to is probably regional.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably like the number one thing I listen to. But same time, I like to go to the good old days and look up some mariachis.
Really?
Yes.
Like what kind of mariachi stuff are you into?
Favorite one, Don Vicente Fernandez, bro.
Okay.
I was my first one.
Yeah.
Pedrito.
Sure.
That's always another one.
Is mariachi big in Guatemala or no?
It's not as big as in Mexico. You do
Okay.
have it, but it's mainly by reggaeton
Okay.
or cumbias. That's like the biggest genre over there you would find.
Yeah. And then the traditional stuff, I guess, would be more marimba, or what would be
Yes,
the-
that would be more marimba,
Okay.
El Grupo Conejos. It's
Okay.
always a big one over there.
And they do like covers sometimes too, right? Like it's like the marimba version of like a song or something like that, right? Like they'll do like a mix almost, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. That's cool. Did you grow up sort of listening to that and dancing that as well, or what?
I did actually. My grandpa used to be a marimba player.
No way.
Yeah, he would have his own marimba. He would go out and play at different events.
Yeah.
He taught my uncles how to play it. And so my family, on my mom's side especially, was always big on music. Like they
Okay.
would have each their own instruments. They would like have a band.
Yeah.
I remember when I came here, first couple of days, every week we would get together. My uncle would grab his saxophone, my mother, the drums.
No way. So you
Yes,
had
the
like a
people-
band
yes,
with all the
a
family?
family band, we would play, especially at different events. People would call them up and hey, like, hey, can you bring your family? We would want to see you play at
That's
my
awesome.
party or something. And it was
Yeah.
always joyful.
But they never drew you into like, hey, pick up this instrument, Brian. Like, hey, we need you to join the band or what?
Oh no.
No.
No, I always wanted to learn how to play an instrument, but I never got the urge as you usually do. You just have like the kiss. I want to play guitar, but you never touch it.
Yeah. One of the things that I always wonder too is like, how do we get more people involved with the community? So if you had to give some tips of like people that might be curious to help out the community service, like what are some of the first steps that they should take?
One of the easiest ways nowadays is pretty much just go online
Yeah.
and look up different things you could join. Like right now, I can go online and get some hours at the food bank. You can always over there and register. They will give you a set schedule
Okay.
to be there. Or
Do you follow any organizations on social media or anything that are good about like volunteering or getting volunteer hours?
Not the moment. Usually, I get all my info by just being around different events. Some people be like, "Hey, we need communities. We need helpers at this event this day."
Yeah,
That's always like my main attraction to community service hours that I always be at. But
got
same
it.
time, you can be community service hours just by being in a group in a club. They would always help you out.
Awesome. So, Mr. Guatemala, Oklahoma, how long is the term? Is it 1 year term or how long is it?
It's a 1 year term.
1 year term. Okay. So, if I put you on the spot and I'm like, hey, Brian, what do you want your legacy to be for being Mr. Guatemala, Oklahoma? What would it be?
I think my legacy would be just to make sure that I did something over there to help, kids join the community, learn how to be more impactful in it.
Yeah.
I think that would be my legacy right now.
Awesome. Where do you see sort of like avenues for kids to like promote cultures besides performing, dancing? What else do you think that they could do to, sort of like promote their culture?
I think one of the easiest ways they can promote their culture right now is just by going out there and represent, wear their colors.
Hmm.
Another ways they can do it is by music. Be proud of where the music come from, what the song means, how it originated. It's always great to see that.
Yeah, definitely. What about the history of it, right? Because you have to do a lot of preparation to be able to represent, right? So, how did you go about, preparing for learning the history, learning the meaning of everything, and just being a good representative, right?
I went about it just pretty much like any other kid in high school. People will be over there, be like, okay, this is in this year, this thing was created. Same exact thing with culture, culture has been around for pretty much since the beginning of time.
Mhm.
That's always been our thing, just to keep culture ongoing through tradition. And so you will never have like a specific origin for it, but you always know what it would mean. Like blue can mean peace, calmness.
Yeah, that's awesome. Has being Mr. Oklahoma, Guatemala, has that opened any doors or gotten you to like a cool experience that you wouldn't have otherwise? Like, has it been pretty memorable or what?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I got to meet like a lot more new people that I didn't think I would have. I met the Oklahoma governor.
Okay.
I met some couple of mayors, something that I would never really think of myself of doing.
Yeah.
I got to meet probably I went to meet a mayor in Guatemala. I
Awesome.
got to go to the municipal building in Guatemala for Shela.
Okay.
I went there and got to do like a whole new experience that before I probably could have done, but I would never think about doing it.
Yeah. So, like, are you putting yourself outside of your comfort zone when you're into these situations? Do you feel comfortable or are you still like a bit nervous? Like, okay, this is my first time, but I'm going to go with it. I'm just going to wing it.
Oh, that's always been my thing. Every time I gonna do something new, I'm always gonna wing it.
Yeah.
Like I would have like a set schedule or some things I would say, but my thing is always wing it. I was always change something like last minute. Maybe I have some speeches ready and I would like change it up because
Got
I
it.
don't like to pretty much follow my schedule. I always like to switch it up. If somebody invites me, hey, we're gonna go to this event, we need to do this. I would always come up with something new for me at least to change things up because that would make it a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah. Is there a lot of public speaking involved? Do you have to like, speak at events and stuff like that or what?
So far, I haven't done that much public speaking.
Okay.
I think the most I've done is probably when I first got nominated. Was probably the first time I would publicly speak in front of people,
Yeah.
and I'll probably be one of my very few times that I ever do it. But besides that, I would just like communicate with people normally, have conversations
Sure.
through them, Hey
A lot
man,
of people have like fear, speaking in public. So that's why I'm asking if you have to do that, are you comfortable doing that? Did you prepare to do that? What was that like for you?
oh, I always prepared. I'm terrified of public speaking.
Really?
Yes, I do not want to go up stage and,
Yeah.
talk in public. Always been a fear of mine. Don't know why.
Yeah.
But
How do
I,
you do it then? How do you get up there and just pretend like everything's normal? How do you do it?
no, I'll go over there and just swing it. If I mess up, I mess up. And if I say something else,
Yeah.
hope people understood me.
Do you go up there with notes, or you have it memorized, or what do you prefer?
I usually have it memorized. I would prefer to have it memorized, but sometimes I will have like a little piece of paper, something to read by, go by,
Yeah,
something to like give me a guide so I don't like lose myself.
sure. Do you see dancing sort of being a part of your life for, the foreseeable future, or do you kind of put like dancing, you're going to retire from dancing? What do you feel like?
I think dancing will always be part of my future. Like
Yeah,
I love doing it. I enjoy doing it. I hope like in the future I can continue doing it. It's always been like a huge part of my culture anyways, to always go out there and be performing.
yeah, I think so. When I had Hilda on the podcast, she said that Eterna Primavera is no longer around, right? Or are they still a part of a dance group?
We no longer have teenagers involved. It's
Okay.
only just little kids.
So how do you plan to keep dancing alive? Like just you're gonna start up your own dance group, or are you gonna be involved with different other groups, or what is that gonna be like?
I'm probably gonna be helping a lot more, especially with Ilda, since she's the one who got me started. Probably gonna help her out a bit more, see if we can get more kids to join up.
Yeah.
And if that's possible, I'm probably gonna go out and help her, teach more kids how to do it, teach them about the culture.
You think traveling is also going to be sort of in the foreseeable future? Because it sounds like you've developed some really cool relationships with Guatemala. Maybe you can go to other regions or stuff like that to volunteer. Have you thought about that?
I thought about it, and I would love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be the hardest part would be finding time to go over there and spend a good time, learning about different cultures, what they do, how they want me to help them out. That'll
Definitely.
probably be the biggest issue, but
What about fundraising, right? Because you can like want to volunteer, you can want to have these, great causes, right? But it all requires funding, right? So how do you go about funding, or what are some of the challenges of, raising funds?
one of my biggest issues when I was fundraising was probably trying to communicate what I wanted to do.
Okay.
So I would usually go out and ask um, pretty much business owners if they would like to help out. And thankfully, a lot of them said, yes, man, we would like to help you out. We would like to see you succeed in your project.
That's cool. How did you go about that? Did you just like visit the business, or did you set up, phone calls? Like, how did you go about finding sponsors?
Oh, I usually went out by going to businesses, seeing who would help me out. Some of them, I just found them at an event.
Mhm.
Like that was also a good way to like meet new people. You find like business owners over there in the bench promoting their stuff. You can go over there and ask them to help you sponsor you.
Yeah.
And over here, you can see the Hispanic community has a lot of heart. They would love to help people out.
He and Mr. Guatemala, we said it was 1 year term, right? So what are some of the goals that you still haven't attained that you're like, okay, I want to do this before my term ends?
Probably I don't have like certain specific goals set up yet. I would just like to, go out and if I could like talk to kids, tell them about culture, that'll be like my biggest accomplishment because I know at least one or two will, be like, hey, you know what? That sounds like I want to keep that culture going, or that sounds like it's a part of me.
We're talking about siblings and the importance of being a good role model for them. What do you think your siblings, are they going to gravitate towards like volunteering and community as well? Or do they, they're kind of doing their own thing and they're a little bit different than what you've been doing?
My little sister is still not old enough to like comprehend about volunteering.
Hmm.
My brother loves to help out, but he's more like in the shadows. He doesn't want to go out and be the one in public. He wants to be the one helping out in the back.
Sure. And that's just as important too, right? There's
Oh, yes.
opportunities for both sides, right? So what would you say for people like that? They're like, hey, I don't want to be in the spotlight, but I do want to help. Like, how can you help, sort of being in the background?
Oh, you can help out just even by setting up booths, helping them, pass out flyers. You don't have to be the one out there speaking, but we do need people out there to just, pass out the message at least. Like that's one of the easiest way you can help out, especially in the community. I see with my brother every time we need help. I always would be like, "Hey, bro, can you drive this food around, or can you help me go this place, or can you accompany me?" Even by just accompanying me, he's helping me out a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing I always ask my guests, if I put you on the spot here, what's one thing that most people don't know about you? So whatever you want to share, whether that's like something weird that you like to eat or a hobby that most people don't know about, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
That I have blonde hair.
No way.
Oh, used to have blonde hair anyways.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but
That's
that's
cool.
always like my go-to. But besides that, I'm always like a geo kid. I always love learning about geography. That's
Okay.
always been like my thing, learning about where specific things are, learn about the geography of Earth.
Yeah. So it sounds like, you've always been attracted to exploring and geography and maybe even space, right? So do you think that you're just going to continue to learn there, or do you think like maybe eventually you want to pursue something in those fields or what?
No, I think I will always have a thing to learn about there. I probably won't pursue them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at. I would always love to learn about new things. I'm always down to open to learn about new things, especially since the earth is ever changing.
Yeah.
Nothing is staying the same, not geography, not culture, not tradition. Everything changes in time.
Yeah. I always wonder about, exploring the sea versus exploring, space. And people say that we know less about the sea than we don't know about the space. What do you think about that?
I think to a certain point that's true. We only explored about 5 to 7% of the sea
Yeah.
in total, but in the sea, we're getting new technology that will help us reach further apart. In space, we don't have enough movement up there. We don't got enough people out there. You can say to go out to different universes or galaxies to go out and explore what things are made out of.
Yeah, definitely. If you have to pick, you're going space or you going sea. What would you rather
Oh,
explore?
always space. I always been more a
Space.
spaceman.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you have any leaders or anybody idols that you looked up as far as like people that had studied space or maybe astronauts growing up as a kid?
Did not.
Okay.
I usually just learn about space just by reading books or going online or reading about comets that's gonna happen every now and then. But probably one of the biggest influencers that probably always keep up in my mind is probably Galileo.
Really?
Galileo, yes.
Why? Why him?
Oh, because he was the inventor of the telescope. He was the first one to be like, hey, that's Jupiter out there. That's not a star. That's a planet.
Yeah. That's cool. Have you ever messed around with all the augmented reality where you can look up to space and it tells you like all the constellations and everything? Have you ever done that?
I don't like to do augmented reality because I just don't like having a big screen on my head the whole day. But
Yeah, I
I
think
just,
the ones I've seen, it just kind of like lays out like where things should be, so you kind of know like what direction to look at. And I don't know, to me, it's interesting, especially if I'm not very familiar with that. Like it guides me through the steps, kind of like hey, this is where you should look. This is what you're looking at. So I don't know, it's kind of cool to play around with that. But I don't know, sounds like you're more traditional. You just want like old school, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
but augmented reality sure does help a lot. Right now, every time I go outside, you cannot see that many stars, but when you do, it's always a bit hard trying to find these constellations or the North Star is always like my biggest one. I always try to find it every day. I
Yeah.
think I found it, but I'm not sure yet. But
Why do you say that? It's just like super difficult to look at it, or what?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
especially right here in the city, it's always a bit more hard
Yeah.
to see it. But I think I found it. Hopefully, with a bit more research, I can reassure myself that that's it.
Yeah, definitely. I know there's like astronomy groups here in the state. I don't know if you ever networked with any of them or anything like that, but I know like sometimes they go out to the lakes and stuff like that and they explore all the different constellations or anything. Have you explored any of that?
I don't know. Over there in Guatemala, I do go out and look at the stars, enjoy them, but I haven't gone out and properly, grab a telescope and
Yeah.
stare at the night all night long.
You think that's something you're going to explore? Because I think, it sounds like you're very into this stuff. So I think you should probably explore some of this stuff. I don't
Yes, I
know.
want to. Right now, I'm actually saving up money just so I can go out and buy myself a telescope and, go out and find a nice clear view of it and just go out and see if I can spot myself a meteor shower or like or not brand new constellation, but just explore different constellations.
No, I think you should definitely explore that. That's like super interesting. I'm going to put you in the spot. Maybe if somebody's not familiar with Guatemala, if you had to give the elevator pitch of like, hey, this is Guatemala, this is some of the cool things that you should do, this is some of the stuff that's interesting about the culture, what would you tell people?
Oh, I usually tell them just to go out to the old cities. That's where you're gonna find most of the most of the information about it where you can explore. Like
Okay.
if you go to Shela, it's one of the oldest cities over there in Central America, and you can find different places just in the plaza alone that would help you out setting up different destinations.
Awesome. What about food? Is there any traditional foods that you're like, hey, if you go to Guatemala, you have to try these dishes?
Oh, I would, yeah. If you go to Guatemala, like some dishes you should try, and it's my favorite, is jocon.
What is that?
Do you know what pepian is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a green version of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty much all it's like a green sauce covered in chicken and rice.
Okay.
The green sauce is made up of pretty much all green leaves like cilantro, uh, thyme, a bunch of other different green leaves that I do not know the name of it.
Yeah.
But that's always been my food. That's always something to tell people to go out and try.
Okay.
It's something different, something good. Because most people go over there and be like, oh, go to Guatemala and try paches, tamales,
Mhm.
de arroz y de masa or de papa. I'm like, no, that's too like new now.
Okay.
That's too new. You have to go out and try some hocon, some traditional dishes out there.
So that's even more traditional than the tamales. It goes back further into history or what?
Not more traditional, probably not history wise, but
Mhm.
it's something that a lot of people don't try. I know like many Guatemalans over here that know how to make it, that don't know how to make it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's like dish 101 in Guatemalan cuisine. Like that's something that every Guatemalan resident should have, but
Yeah.
they don't.
Where else do we want to go besides Chela? Like, what are some of maybe, best places to visit?
Esquipulas, another great place.
Okay.
You can always go to Antigua. It's always some of the oldest places. I don't know much about Guatemalan geography yet. That's something I'm still learning about. But if you can go to old colonial or pre-colonial places, it's always good. Like if you go to the ruins of Mayans,
Okay.
it's always good. Something to learn, something before pre-colonization,
Yeah.
pre-Spanish era. It's always something good to learn.
Awesome. When you've gone, do you go on like guided tours or do you kind of already have family or friends there that they guide you to places to visit?
Usually when I usually go there just to visit my family.
Yeah.
But every now and then we will go out and explore like a different area near the house. We don't like to go that far, just that we don't know where to go. It's always still a bit more difficult over there. You don't got Google Maps that would help you out because not every street is marked by signs.
Got it.
So it's always a bit more difficult to explore places. So if you do go, always have like a guide set out, have people that know where they're going. It's always going to be a huge help.
I'm going to put you on the spot and maybe think about like some pivotal moments that led you to where you are right now. So what are some of the decisions or some of the things that you experienced that made you want to go into leadership, that made you want to like be Mr. Guatemala, Oklahoma?
Probably one of the biggest things that led me to be here was probably being in a quinceañera.
Really?
Yes.
How so?
Because Hilda was the dance instructor for that quinceañera. So
Oh, okay.
with that, I made some connections.
A happenstance where you happen to be at the right place, right time. You met her and then you just got involved with the community that way or what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Besides that, school is always another good way. And my teachers always recommended me to go do community events or to join clubs. They'll always be like, hey, man, we see how you act in school. We notice that you like to help out people. How would you think about joining, certain club?
Well, I want to give you the stage here before we sign off to plug in any social media. If you have anything official for your community work or maybe a website that you want to plug in, anything that you want to plug in, the stage is yours.
Pretty much something I have community-wise or probably social media-wise is probably my Facebook,
Okay.
which is Brian De Leon.
And if people want to get involved with being either Mr. or Mrs. Guatemala, what's the best place to go to find that information?
To find that information, you can always contact Ila Xavier or go to Guatemalan Royalty.
Okay.
That's always a good way to, meet new people or pretty much just find any person in the community. They would always be willing to help you out. they will be willing to get you in contact with the right persons.
Well, I want to thank you for being on the podcast. I know your schedule's super busy, so thanks for being on the podcast.
No, man, thank you for having me. It's been a good pleasure to be here. Thank you for letting me try something new.
Perfect. All right. There you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, the super talented Brian De Leon on the Maverick Podcast. In dreams, we trust.